So Clippers are 8th in the West right now. They just snapped a 5-game losing streak with a fourth quarter comeback against Memphis.
Saw that
over the weekend. And, as we've talked about throughout the season, the standings in the West are very bunched up. 5th through 13th are separated by 3 games right now. So with the fact the Raptors taking on the Clippers tonight, I thought we could go through some of the teams in the West and figure out which teams are contenders, which teams are pretenders.
Right, because you could genuinely argue that for most of the teams out there.
Yeah. Why don't we start with the Clippers then, since they are playing tonight?
Okay, so I think the Clippers are for sure contenders. I really don't actually see them as a pretender status. I think that they are in this period right now where they're working 3 new players into their rotation, and they've had some close losses. That Kings one obviously was, they should have won that game, and then they just turned the ball over like 5 times in a row for no reason. But they're trying to work Russell Westbrook into the lineup. Obviously, that's going to be a very big disruption. They're working the Plum God. I'm sure JR is going to have a great time tonight watching the Plum God.
Yeah, the Plum Sauce.
Eric Gordon's there now, too. He's been freed.
Oh, yeah, that's my guy.
He's just shooting 30-foot
This guy got
three-pointers.
freed to the Clippers, and then they immediately lost like 5 in a row once he joined them.
Yeah,
He might have the worst personal record in the league right now.
It is tough. It is tough. But no, I think that there's going to be some disruptions, but that team is pretty solid, man. They're not missing that much, I would say. And I think the scary thing with the Clippers, and we'll probably see it tonight, is when they go to moments where they play small ball and they have, let's say it's like Kawhi and Paul George and, it's whoever else you want to put out there, Nick Batum for more defense and corner 3-point shooting, or Eric Gordon for more spacing, or even Westbrook with that group. I know it doesn't sound that great, but at the same time, when you put it all together and had to play them, it's very, very tough. Like, they can really all guard you one-on-one. And even though they don't have rim protection, you get so spaced out trying to guard that team. So I thought that was the biggest thing where when they won against Memphis, they were losing for a lot of that game. But they went to that look in the fourth quarter, and it was a reminder of like, okay, when they get into the playoffs, that's a look that they can use against a lot of the teams. Like, they could use that against Sacramento, I think. They could use that against Golden State. Denver, probably not as much. I just really do think that, you do need a big on the floor to at least deal with Jokic. But no, the Clippers are for real for me. But of course, they're also, it's funny because you look at their standings and they're like roughly 500.
Yeah, they pretty much have the same record as the Raptors.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. What have you seen from the Clippers this year? The other concern I have with the Clippers, just real quickly, is obviously Kawhi is his own world, but I do think that like the rest of the team needs to have great chemistry around Kawhi.
Sure.
Because that's what worked for the Raptors in 2019. And even to the last time Kawhi won, before that obviously was 2014 with the Spurs. That was the ultimate team of like everybody worked so well together. And Kawhi wasn't like the dominant superstar he was at that time. But you know what I mean? Like, I think Kawhi has always won when the rest of the team has great chemistry around him. And I still don't fully see that with the Clippers. That's the one area I'd be concerned about. But I suppose you have like a month to rectify that.
Yeah, that's my biggest, I guess, case against this team is just the continuity. And like you talked about the chemistry, and you watch a game like them against the Sacramento Kings and how they blew those leads down the stretch and ended up losing in overtime. And we've seen that happen on several occasions. Like, is that just a matter of looking at it as a function of just, within the scope of that game, or does it speak to like a bigger problem? Because like if teams aren't together, or if you don't have these lineups and players that are familiar with each other, like those things are going to happen down the stretch, right? Yeah, so like for me, it's like they've treated these, I mean, when Kawhi was here, they treated the regular season like 82 practices, and it did work out. And I think it speaks to what you were saying about having the right players around Kawhi, and to be honest, just having, I think, just a better supporting cast than what they've put around Kawhi, during his 4 years with the Clippers. Like, they still have questions about their point guard position. I think there's still questions about like who their starting lineup should be. I know the small ball lineup is good, but I think the argument against the Clippers will have to be like, are you able to just have this kind of jumbled, kind of scrambled together 82 game schedule and then expect to go into the playoffs and be able to win 4 rounds, which is what they're trying to do? No,
for sure. I don't know if they can win like the full 4 rounds. I think it'll probably come down to matchups for them. But I mean, at the same time, like, it's a little understated because Kawhi obviously is still on the load management plan, but when you're thinking back to basically from the start of the year, Kawhi has sat 4 times, all those on the second night of back-to-backs, right? Which was standard. Like that's what he was doing in Toronto as well, right? But he sat 4 times. He's played 22 games in that stretch. He's averaging 28 points per game on 53% shooting, 50% shooting from 3, and he's shooting 92% from the free throw line. This guy's genuinely a cyborg, as we all know here in Toronto. And so he's going to be good enough to win you so many games on his own. But I do think that, the rest of the team needs to figure it out. And the Clippers do have a very interesting team because they have lots of good players that they don't even play on a consistent basis. Their depth is really great, but at the same time, I'm looking at them like, okay, who are you going to roll with? Like, who's your 8-9 man rotation? And if Ty Lue can just stick to that and go forward with it, that's going to really help. Obviously, in his defense, he's had to make more additions to the roster with the recent buyout guys that they've had, or even the trade deadline sort of moves. But once he sticks with that and rolls with it, we'll see if there's a chemistry there. But I do believe that everyone on the Clippers actually just wants to win. They're all guys in their career where, they have either won before or they're trying to finally get over the top.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure for them coming into this playoffs. Like, it's been year 4 now, right, of this Kawhi PG thing. And, there was much hyped, talked about and all this stuff. And, the trade that they made to get Paul George and giving up all the assets, including sending Shea to OKC, to me, that's one of those trades where, if you win a championship, then, it doesn't matter what those draft picks and what Shea turns into. It's kind of like...
Okay, Brian Windhorst.
No, but it's true.
This guy listened to that straight from the Hoop Collective.
No, but it's kind of...
winning a championship means never having to say sorry.
I've been behind on the Hoop Collective because I've been deep in the, this league uncut, which is emerging as my new fave now.
Man.
But shouts to Pound the Rock as well. But that's one of those trades, kind of like the Kevin Durant Phoenix one too. Like if they win a championship in this Kawhi Paul George era, then whatever. Then I think the trade was worth it. But if they don't, then it's a disaster. Like it's really the two extremes, right? Because they've tried to rebuild this roster, build around, add supporting cast, subtract for the last couple of years, and I feel like now they're in a position to hopefully try to make a run. Like you mentioned, the Kawhi numbers, like his last 8 games, like he's around 28 points, 6.5 rebounds, and the shooting, like you mentioned, has been ridiculous. 55% from the field, 57% from 3.
Yeah. No, this guy's doing 50, 90.
Like this is,
it doesn't make any sense.
If Kawhi ever played...
I'm down so bad for Kawhi,
No,
man.
if Kawhi ever played 82 games, like he's an MVP front runner every year. Not that we're ever going to see him play 82.
He's not that kind of guy, though. And
he's not, but
he genuinely doesn't care.
Yeah, but that's the case, I think, for the Clippers, too, is like you're going to have arguably the best player in a 7-game series in a lot of these matchups.